am not overconfident. Just better.
Angel, this is just how it works out sometimes.
That's it. I'm ready for round two.
Something. I said, this is just how it works out sometimes.
Ladies and gents, your boy is back. This time, well, quite frankly, it's because Battlefield might just be back, and we're going to talk about the beta from this past weekend as we head into the second weekend of the beta. I am returning this time as a battle dad, so, you know, it's partly why the pause in videos for the past year or so. Now, I haven't been covering Battlefield since the 2042 debacle. We won't talk about that one. I'm sure we all got some PTSD from that game. So we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about Battlefield 6 and the beta, because the beta is pretty dang good, I might add. Let's start off with performance. Speaking of pretty dang good, for a beta, and I will compare it to 2042 in this aspect. If you remember 2042's beta, you could see parachutes floating over guys' heads even after they landed, and other various problems that even a month or so before launch, and even with a 1 month delay, we're like, they'll fix it all. I'm sure many of us in the know were pretty skeptical, as we should have been, and we were right when the game came out. This time, this beta is actually in really, really, really great shape. I only had one technical issue. That was, there was something, I got out of a vehicle. I can't remember, I'll have the footage up, but the hollow sight on my gun it looked like one of those blank TV screens where it was just kind of like fuzz in the middle of the sight, and I couldn't see anything. That was the only technical glitch that I had, and that's the only thing that I had in the entire beta that was of any kind of issue, at least that I noticed for my experience. And I did play as much as I possibly could. There's only so much time when you got a 4-month-old. I'm just saying. But that said, let's move on to things like maps. The maps, to me, were a mixed bag. I think Iberian Offensive was great as a conquest map, great medium size, sort of medium close quarters type of conquest map. You had some room for vehicles, room for flanks. You had a close quarter sort of city area. That was really fun. But I would like to have seen some more bigger maps. Again, I'm not a big vehicle player, and I do enjoy the close quarters maps, but it's good to have a decent mix, because sometimes you had a bit more open space, you got more room to move, different types of play styles can become viable. That said, I still really liked that particular map. Cairo, excellent breakthrough map. It reminded me a lot of like a Battlefront 2 type of map in the way it was laid out, and that was not a problem at all, especially for a game mode like Breakthrough. Once again, lots of close quarters, some room for vehicles, but honestly not much. You're just not going to encounter that many, but you have lots of variation in terms of engagements and verticality and different areas that you can move between. It's just like a city type of map. Now, the one map that was a bit different was Liberation Peak, which personally I really did not enjoy, particularly in Breakthrough, because it is just it's got this bowl shape to it that makes it a sniper's paradise, because any sniper can just perch up, and the entire rest of the players on the map are in what's called a kill zone, a target-rich environment, because there's just, when they have that verticality, it's very difficult to hide, especially when it's not like an urban map where there's buildings and stuff you can get behind. Not saying it was terrible. In Conquest, it was fun. There are fun spots. The D point and the C point were really fun areas to kind of go between, and then you've got that separation in the middle with some pathways to move between. And if you were creative, you can kind of get on top of some things that weren't necessarily just the mountains, and kind of have some fun that way. And there was definitely more room for vehicles to maneuver, again, changing up the gameplay while still being honestly somewhat close quarters. I still enjoyed that map though, to an extent. Again, some of the breakthrough rounds were pretty rough, so I did not like it the first few times I played on it. But Conquest was good. Let's talk about gunplay, because that's going to matter much more than a lot of the other things in the gameplay, because that's what you're going to do a lot in a first-person shooter, is shoot guns. The guns feel great and punchy. On a surface level, the gunplay is great. Now, there are some issues. I know some people complain about the TTK maybe being too fast. I don't think so. I mean, maybe a touch, but it's not something I would want to slow down too much. And around the last time we had a pretty solid TTK, and they decided to mess around with it. Battlefield 5.2 update, you know what I'm talking about, where the game was like, we came back, and then we're going to ruin it. And that's what they did then. I don't really want them to play around with it now because it does feel in a pretty good spot. I never felt like I was killing too fast. I never felt like I was getting killed too fast. Obviously, unless you get shotgunned. It was one of the few times I played an FPS where I'm like, I feel like when I die, it makes sense why I died. I know what bad decision I made. It wasn't like playing some of these other games like Battlefield 5 at times or 2042 where it's like all that happened was a guy had a thing that explodes and has a huge area damage, and that's what killed me. And there was nothing I could do about it because I was running 5 miles across a massive open map, or there's 128 players here and I got shot from 12 directions because there's just too much. It's not a properly designed game, right? I promise I'll stop talking about 2042. Now, the other change I would make, there's actually a couple other changes I would make. One would be locking the screen center to where the guns are firing. It should not move around like it does. I think they do that to try and mitigate quote-unquote movement players, which has been a very big topic of conversation ever since Call of Duty and slide canceling and all that became more and more popular. But honestly, it's been around for a while. If you know, the people that do like the tap, the kind of like the bunny hopping's been around forever since FPSs were a thing. But I know BF4 had like the where you could basically spam crouch and that would kind of throw off the hitbox and make it hard to hit. All you had to do as the player doing that is maintain your aim. So stuff like that, sure, it's annoying if you're just casually playing the game and you don't want to have to deal with people doing that. You just want to play a regular FPS. But I do think things like that are great for a skill gap and making sure that good players are rewarded for being good. Again, sure, it's annoying, but you got to credit guys for making the most of what the game allows them to do, as long as it's not an exploit. Now, that gets into a further conversation that could honestly be its own whole video about what is and isn't an exploit and where that line is drawn, but we're not going to talk about that today. The other thing is get rid of the sweet spot mechanic. It works in Battlefield 1 because bolt actions are the primary weapon of World War I, so it makes sense to make the scout class in that game more powerful so more people play it, so it feels a bit more like World War I. I don't think it belongs in a modern shooter. I think if you go back to BF5s and even 2042, which basically had almost the same exact sniping system of headshots or one-shots, the one thing I do like is that a fatal headshot is one that you cannot be revived from. But again, I think it's that much more rewarding if you make that the sniping system. If you have headshots are the only one-shot kills from full health, I think that just makes for a more satisfying sniping experience, and it makes it to where there's a bit more skill involved in sniping, especially when you have maps like Liberation Peak where there's just tons of snipers. It is very hard to run around when you glance up out of cover and there's 4 glares staring at you from the side of a hill. It's just hard to move, especially when your team isn't really coordinating together. Next up, let's talk about vehicle balancing. To me, the vehicle balancing is odd. Unfortunately, I did not record the rounds where I did try running some tanks. I did pretty decent. I'm definitely not a vehicle player like I mentioned earlier, but I think I went 24-9 in one game with one where I had a decent streak in a tank. And if you know me, if you can tell by the gameplay on screen, as rusty as it is, I haven't touched an FPS in like 2 years. I'm a pretty aggressive player, right? I'm definitely not a sit on the hill with a tank and shoot from a mile away type of guy. That's just not how I play. That's not how I played those rounds. So you can be aggressive in tanks, which I like. I want the vehicles to be up and involved in the combat, which was an issue in the past couple of games where it was just more viable for more players to sit at the back of the map and basically use tanks as mobile artillery from their spawn. Not even mobile, because they're not moving. That type of stuff, that takes the fun out of the game. Because you want a combined arms game to focus on that combined arms experience, not just, hey, we're lobbing shells from the back here. If I want to deal with artillery, I'd play Hell Let Loose, So I do think that they are very capable in terms of being aggressive. But the one thing I will say is there does seem to be an odd balancing, because it feels like it takes 4 C4s or 4 RPG shots in standard hits on a tank to take it down, like 4 in a row. Without repairs. And the beta was great as far as engineers coming to the aid and being able to repair you. But the one odd thing I've seen is there were a couple times where it's like there's these undefined weak spots on the tanks where if you hit it in that weak spot, if you even know where it is, which I'm sure we'll find out the more we get to play the game. And hopefully they put something where like the game tells you, kind of like in Battlefield 1 or 5, where it would tell you, oh, glancing blow does 3 damage, or if you hit a certain spot on the tank, it did like a different type of hit reticle, or notify you that you hit a weaker spot, you did a bit more damage. Something along those lines, because I feel like that was not present when I was playing the beta, and so it was hard to tell. But I've seen people take down a tank with 1 RPG shot from 80 health, and that seems just so random and out of the blue, especially when the rest of the time it's taken 4 and 5 hits to take them down. The last thing I want to mention, very last thing, since we're all having fun here, and since this beta was fantastic, and since everyone is extremely hyped because everything is just lining up right. We got classes back, the open weapons and Conquest. They said they're going to have class lock weapons modes and open weapons modes. Personally, I did enjoy the open weapons modes just because I love running like the recon with a suppressed carbine in BF4, and so I was kind of doing that in the beta as well. You'll notice one of the clips, I'm running recon with an M4A1 and just having a good time because I love C4. You know, what can I say? Those types of things are present. They seem to be doing all the right things and not being so odd with their decision making about just making the game fun for everyone. They're actually explaining why the server browser is being done the way it's being done. Not that I agree with it, but at least they're talking about it, whereas before it wasn't really even acknowledged a lot of times. It's very awkward, particularly in Battlefield 5 in 2042. It was just like weird communication. I gotta say, this has been the most excited I've been for an EA shooter game since Star Wars Battlefront 2 in terms of everything is lining up correctly. You know, all the things that the community asked for are there. But if you remember Battlefront 2, I know it's been, 8 years since then, which is insane to me because I remember the marketing like it was yesterday. That bamboozled us. Once the game came out, it was like everything's lining up right, the beta's good, yada yada, performance is good. Oh, out of a loot box comes the most downvoted Reddit post of all time. So just be on your toes for anything, because bamboozles can come in all shapes and forms. So just be aware. Definitely don't pre-order. I'm never going to recommend pre-ordering. Be aware. Something can come out of nowhere, and they're just kind of keeping tabs on it. It feels too good to be true, and they might deliver. They might really deliver for the first time since 2016. But we gotta wait and see, right? We gotta wait and see. So that's what we gotta do. Anyway, let me know down below what you guys think of Battlefield 6. Did you try the beta? Are you excited for this upcoming weekend of the beta? Let me know. Let's have a conversation. It feels really good to finally post a video again and finally have some spare time to do so. It's really good to talk about Battlefield again. It's been a long time since I've even tried to play an FPS game. So I had a very good time this past weekend, and hopefully it's not the rose-colored glasses, although I'm sure some of that is involved as well. Maybe I'll shake this rust off a bit quickly. Maybe I'll throw a few practice rounds in on BF5 or BF1 or something. But again, let me know down below what you guys think, and let's have a conversation, and I'll see you in the next video.